hour. I'm not going to drag him out here, but I'd like you to please join me now in welcoming our 2022 Inc. 5000 conference keynote speaker, founder of FUBU, best-selling author, and everyone's favorite shark, Daymond John. How are you, buddy? Have a seat.
Thank you. How you doing? How are you doing? Good. All right. Oh, man.
I think, one of the reasons I was a little nervous about this morning, too, is how late they had me up from screaming outside. So I think they're doing very well.
Oh.
Yeah, I think this is a crowd that's enjoying itself.
It is a pleasure to be here with all my fellow sharks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You don't think you're fellow sharks? You don't sound like your fellow sharks to me.
So tell me why you're here, why you actually give back in the way you do.
After being on Shark Tank, I realized the power, that the influence of seeing other people where you are today or you want to be is. And I think that we just see all the people that, or people generally talk about their wins. Is it, speaker okay? Okay. Yeah, we generally see on, a lot of people are talking about their wins, and a lot of them actually aren't winning. And we don't get to see the human aspect of entrepreneurship and being a founder. And I just want to share that as much as possible because it's a hard-ass journey, but it's worth it.
Right, and not enough people recognize how hard it is.
Yeah, listen, they're not making any more attention these days, and what people put out, or they do not put out their failure, because a lot of people believe that you're not supposed to be vulnerable as an entrepreneur. There you go, thank you. A lot of people believe that, I'm good though, right? Am I good? Yeah. All right, we're good. This is just in case of emergency. A lot of people don't believe that as a founder or as an entrepreneur or a boss, you're supposed to be vulnerable, when that's exactly what you're supposed to be. You know one thing, you do really well at that one thing, but you need a team, right? You need people who, I got up, I didn't know anything else besides marketing. I didn't know how to manufacture, and then now social media, and then of course finance, and then shipping and distribution and negotiation for everything else. So you need these things, and a lot of people just don't realize that it is good to be vulnerable as an entrepreneur and share.
And so, I'm being a little disingenuous because I knew Daymond was going to say that, because we've just finished a story on him that'll appear in the next issue of Inc. magazine, and I think we'll get to look at the cover on the screen here in a minute. This is the cover of the next issue of Inc. Daymond John's new
That's
focus.
the first time seeing it.
Handsome-looking guy, right?
I look pretty intense.
So we got the face in focus. I think that was
Yeah, you got the face in focus for sure.
But so the story is about Daymond.
By the way, that is velvet.
It's coming back. Daymond and I also actually share a long history in the fashion world. A really long time ago, I worked at GQ magazine, and I was a fashion writer there. And one of our editors started talking about this brand called FUBU. And at that time, GQ was Armani and Ralph Lauren,
For sure.
and Tommy Hilfiger, and all of these people. And someone kept bringing us baseball caps with FUBU on them, hockey jerseys with FUBU on them. And we were like, how do we put this stuff in with the Armani? And,
Understood, yeah.
And it kind of didn't matter, because it became its own thing, and obviously a source of significant success for you. So him wearing velvet.
But that was the beautiful part. Like snobs like you guys wouldn't put it in. So we addressed everybody else who was actually wearing it.
Yeah. So and I think that was a fundamental moment in a change in our culture, where it was not top down to the streets, but streets up to the top.
I think that most of the things from culture do initially start like that, but it is where is that pivotal moment, right? Whether it is jazz, rock and roll, hip hop, or dance moves, or even fashion, right? It is always when organic energy, and this is exactly why the people who are in this room are here, they found out how to rebel within the system, and they found other people that identified with what they were doing. And if everybody, and taking nothing away from such a great publication such as GQ, I mean, we need publications that address every market, right? But I think that the people in this room today who made the 5,000 found the problem that was keeping other people up at night. They figured somebody else was going to solve it, and nobody solved it. And they figured that they were going to take it on themselves. And it always is the voice of the people that will make it and break through at a certain point. I think that's just the inflection point that we were going through at that moment with GQ.
I still don't think that means Velvet is making a comeback.
You'd be surprised.
But there's, so this is Daymond John's new focus, is the idea behind the story, theoretically. Someone who is taking a step back to reassess his life a little bit and maybe change the way he was doing business. And it turned out in part that was really true, as you'll see in the opening spread of that story, which should be up any second on the screen. Daymond John, gone fishing. This is the first time he's seen this photo.
Yeah.
You want to tell us about it?
Well, that fish was really small, so I had to push it way into the camera. But this was a story of entrepreneurship at its finest. I had just finished filming Shark Tank and The Masked Singer. Did anybody see me on The Masked Singer? I got robbed, clearly. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here right now.
This is typical entrepreneur thinking they can do everything better than anyone else.
Absolutely. And so we were supposed to shoot this in Florida, and I'm on the Shark Tank set filming Shark Tank Live. It's Friday night, we're live, and all of our phones start going off that there's a hurricane hitting Florida. My wife's telling me, and I'm trying to find out if I'm going to evacuate her or not. She feels comfortable staying where she's at, but we have now a camera crew, stylist, booked a boat, a reporter flying down to spend 48 hours with me. Everything had to move within 1 hour while I was filming a live show. Moved everybody to California, all of my clothes, shipped everything. I never went back to Miami, and we accomplished this in 2 days of bringing the photographer around. And then I'm not usually in a city more than 12 hours, and I usually hit about anywhere from 9 to 12 cities a week. And I was moving on. And I think this showed the entrepreneurial spirit of you as a large publication in a corporate world, and us as entrepreneurs having to figure things out, and my wife for being very patient with me. So we got a great shot, and I doubted that we would get any kind of magazine quality shot on the water. I'm like, guys, I'm fishing. How are we going to do that? And that is a great shot. So thank you for being nimble.
I do want to say that when I talked about Daymond's generosity, we're doing this in Miami, where you live now, so you could see your family and your young daughter.
My home,
And he decided that he couldn't take the chance of this not working out with the hurricane, stayed in Los Angeles, so actually deferred that, and thank you for that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Thank you, and thank you for honoring me. This will be my third cover, right, in 15 years.
So more than Cuban, just saying. More than Cuban has.
And I sold more than Cuban had. My first one. My first cover, I think you said I don't know if you say that to everybody, but I think you said I sold more than anybody.
I think that's true, yeah.
All right, right on. Well, thank you.
We just have to get him to be as generous as you are, and then he might get his third cover too. But in all seriousness, and we can take that fish down. It's still early, unless you want to keep looking at it.
No, we're good.
Okay. It's on the monitor here. We're looking at it still, and I know you're proud of it. In all seriousness, we went to talk to you because a lot has changed in your life in the last 4 or 5 years. A young daughter, a cancer diagnosis, a renewed interest in your health.
Yes. Renewed interest in my health, a renewed interest in where I feel this country, I can serve this country and fellow entrepreneurs better, which is going after and addressing kids and families, kids from 6 to 12. I realized they don't have any heroes anymore, as I wouldn't have known this unless I had my new little girl. And I realized from 1 to 5, they have Daniel Tiger, Pepper the Pig. But unlike us, who had, what's the guy's name, Ross Painting, or Electric Company, or unfortunately talking about his content, Cosby, or even our kids had Steve from Blue's Clues or the Muppets. We don't have any heroes for our little future sharks from 6 to 12. They have fragmented families, nothing wrong with it, but fragmented families they watch on YouTube, but there's no one hero. And I think our kids at that age, unlike us, we wanted to put words and syllables together. Our kids at that age, they want to know how to, instead of playing a video game, be a coder, or anything that they can buy. They want to learn how to sell and add value to their family. And they don't teach us this financial intelligence in school like they teach us shop. But we will then grow old enough to be 16 years old and acquire half a million dollars worth of student debt that we're not even sure if we're going to need that career when we get out, because the fact is 50% of today's graduating kids will retire with a job title that doesn't actually exist today. It's like you telling somebody you're going to be a drone operator or a pay-per-click expert 20 years ago, or an NFT expert, right? So I think my new job and my new agenda for my little girl and for the rest of the world is to start to show families how to become more entrepreneurial thinking within the system. When we were growing up, my oldest daughters didn't want to be in fashion, so they couldn't be in the family business. But today, 2 kids can be in the family business without being in the family business. Mom's a real estate agent, so mom, the daughter is going to operate your social media. The son is going to take a drone and drone the homes that you are listing, so you have a better view of the homes and you increase your sales. They may not work in the business themselves, and they will go out to do their own business, but the family unit today is somebody that needs an education on how to do that, or we're just going to be a country of debt. And I think that that's critical, because financial or security in your home is the #1 reason, the lack of it, for divorce, for violence, for unhealthy living. So that's my new job, because I have been fortunate enough to be one of the only African Americans that don't come from sports, fashion, sports, music, or politics to be on a major network and in living rooms for the last 14 years. So whether you're a child of color or not, you can look at me and say, if he made it being dyslexic, having no money, getting left back in school, and just applying himself with common sense and the willingness to hustle, then I can make it. And I think that is my job now. Thank you. Thank you.
So when we understood this about you at Inc., it was, our thinking that meant you were slowing down other places.
Yeah.
That apparently is not true. In addition to the 25,000 steps you walk a day, you managed to only get 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah, and I try to get more sleep. Sleep is like the 4th critical element of living. I just don't. I can't help it. Somebody did a genetic test on me, and they said that I just won't sleep. They studied what I had against other entrepreneurs, and they said, whatever the science was, they said, a person like you doesn't sleep, and you're very hard on other people because you're extremely hard on yourself. But yeah, life is not slowing down. It's crazy, because I was sharing with you, this is the first time so my little girl, who's 6 years old now, right? For the first 3 years, my wife and her couldn't travel with me anywhere. Then all of a sudden COVID hit. She's home with me for 2 years, and now she's in school where she has to be in school, a certain place. I've seen my wife and my daughter 5 times in the last 8 weeks. My life is usually not as hectic, but with Shark Tank Live, all this other stuff, my daughter was bawling uncontrollably about 3 nights ago when I told her I was going back on the road, and I never saw her bawl like this. And it was heartbreaking, because she was saying, I love you, and she wasn't being, most children are like, just stay home. And they don't understand the reality. She said, I know why you have to leave, but it just hurts, and I really miss you. And it was very, very hard, because this is the second time I'm going through this, because my oldest girls, who now understand, who are very much like me, it's kind of like the cat and the cradle and the silver spoon story. It was very hard, and I was trying to decide the other night if I should just stop, and then change and move more to board seats and advisory seats. But then I realized, and I think that you can take away from this, that's just the way I'm built. If I was on boards, like I am on some, I would be doing it 24 hours a day. I just don't understand how to sit at home. And mentally, I wouldn't be at home. And there's no easy way to have a level of success and push the boundaries. And thank God I have a great partner, my wife. But as I started to redefine what I want to do, go into child education, explain to all my fellow entrepreneurs about early detection, because all this serving of others, if you don't serve yourself, well, you may end up like me with a golf ball size of stage 2 cancer in your body that you didn't know existed, because you weren't taking care of yourself, but you were listening to everybody else's problems. It is my job to do that, and I just don't know how to do anything else. My little girl will learn from that, but it's very hard when we face these challenges in life, and we all go through it no matter what level you're at.
And it's hard to understand that when you're 6, though, right?
It is extremely hard. But if I was home, if I was one of these great people that clean up our cities, a sanitation worker, I would be working overtime, because as any parent here, I'd sleep in a damn refrigerator box if I had to make sure that my little girl and my wife have what they need in life.
And I guess you've always been that way, working at a restaurant and making FUBU product at night, so it's bred in the bone.
It is. Certain people were just built like that. Now, don't get me wrong, because the whole theory of the article is I still, though, carve out just as much time to focus on my health, on my relationship with my wife, with God, and to steal away these moments of fishing and time with others. I'm just as diligent about that.
So I think that's a really great lesson, that you prioritize your time catching bass or whatever it is in the same way you do a meeting.
100%. I mean, tomorrow I have to go and start filming my thing called Black Entrepreneurs Day in New York, my 3rd annual. I hope everybody watches October 27th. But I will try to steal away, if I can, I'll try to steal away an hour of fishing or 2 hours of fishing Saturday morning. And I need to be on camera at 8 in the morning. Well, that means I just got to get up at 5, and work harder and work longer. But the fishing comes first. By the way, the fish don't wait. They don't like when you come off at lunch, come catch me, So
they're like customers.
Yeah, they are pessimists, and people think when you get to this level of my life that I can create the rules. I cannot create the rules. If I need to have meetings, well, I got a 6-year-old. She couldn't give a shit about my meetings, right? At 2:15, in the afternoon, I better have on my tiara because it's tea time with Peppa Pig. There's no negotiating anything else. And the fish, I'm on their time. So bottom line is, I have to juggle and move things around no matter what as well.
I'm just going to say you can do on-demand TV at some point with Peppa, having done that myself. We talked to Barbara Corcoran in the story.
Did she take her medicine before you talked to her? I hope so.
I think she was okay, because she said some really kind things.
Oh, good.
Apparently, you're her favorite shark too. She said that you recognized the opportunity on Shark Tank and were able to turn it into a larger platform before anyone else on the show knew what was going on. Where did that come from? How did you know that? How did you see the opportunity? I know it wasn't just a platform, it was a ladder to other platforms.
I think that the beauty of being dyslexic, and Barbara's dyslexic, and as I believe you did a story on this, but 8 of the 12 sharks are dyslexic, and I think the beauty of being dyslexic is being able to sit and view things without overcomplicating it and drill it down to where the value lies or where the challenges lie. And I think that if anybody said, Daymond, you're smart or this and that, it all comes down to really sitting around and drilling down where the value or the landmines in something is. And I think that's what it is. And a lot of us, as entrepreneurs, we think too much about the upside than we think about just drilling down to what is our net at the worst, at the end of the day. And that's what I do. I look at it. I have a simple way of looking at it. So I do that in every way, from anything I do, from, I hope we have time, but even going to the mall the other day, I realized one thing. I went to the mall, this is the first time I went in a long time, so I pull up, I have a pretty nice car. They're like $40 to put in the front. No, park the goddamn car where you're supposed to park it. There's no different, I don't need it in the front. Then I walk out, go to the mall, go to the store. I have to stand on line to go and buy something because of all this smash and grab, so I'm irritated. The kids are running around, and these young kids are doing crazy things in the mall. Like, I almost got into a fight, and I don't fight. But you know what they're doing? They're jumping around doing weird things, and somebody else is filming them because they want to put it on social media, and it is really, really annoying. And I don't know how to fight. I practice the two oldest forms of self-defense: running and biting. I'm a biter. It works for tigers, pit bulls, hyenas. It's going to work for me. So I don't want to get in no fight. I got my wife there, right? And then I go into the store to buy something. It's like, give me your email. Do you want to be on our mailing list? Do you want to? I don't want anything but to check out. And I leave, and I'm miserable. But you know what I realized? Nobody really wants to go to these malls anymore. And you know what? I passed by the Apple store, and what started off as things to listen to in our ear, now everybody now has these computers. Now they upsold everybody with these watches. I'm looking at the watch screen, and this little thing I saw counting my steps. Now there's a whole Peloton world there. Apple just created another universe. I don't see that with Samsung phones or anything else. They have a universe here from TV to everything else. I passed by the Tesla store. Ford had a challenge with their new cars, but this Tesla store has a line almost outside, but you can't get enough Teslas. And I don't want to necessarily do all this type of shopping in the mall. So wait a minute, there's Amazon or Shopify. I'm going to go out and buy those 4 stocks because they're all 40% off. So if I can't beat them, I'm going to join them, especially Apple. This iPhone 14 is coming out. Why are all my iPhone 13s having a problem? I love these guys. They're pimps. They're pimps. I can't beat them. I got to join them. I got to buy the stock. It's just drilling down to the basics and understanding and seeing things.
Okay, so Grandpa, I want to talk about the social media thing for a minute. Because you actually pioneered a form of social media with Fubu, didn't you?
Yes.
Hiring artists and storefronts.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story a little bit?
Yes.
So just as you're complaining about a younger generation, I just want to say that you did your own version of that.
100%. Yes. So yeah, I did my own version of it. I would take T-shirts and put them into, and I only had 10, and the story is that I put them into all these music videos and take them back, and then put them back in. I only had 10 shirts. So I did that and put them into about 15 music videos over the course of 2 years, and now they're spinning heavily on basically our version of Instagram at that time, right? And then I go around to all these store gates that are pulled down, and I ask them, can I spray paint their gate a beautiful sign, because they just have profanity on it. It's of a local clothing company, I didn't even tell them clothing, and the kids would see they're supporting a local company, and we would support you. So I spray painted all the gates, authorized Fubu dealer. I didn't care they were selling Chinese food, they were an authorized Fubu dealer. And because those gates are pulled down during morning rush hour with all the buses and trains, pedestrians, and those 10 T-shirts were in music videos, that equated to about $15 million worth of advertising every year, right? I was just a waiter in Red Lobster. Then MTV tries to sell me 30-second spots on MTV when I started making money for $7,000 a spot, because they basically, what is it, Nielsen? Nielsen said X amount of people are watching MTV music videos, and BET videos were only $500 because not that many people were watching it. Well, I knew all the African Americans I knew had bootleg cable. They weren't reporting that anyway. And there were 10 African Americans and Latinos in each house. I spent the same exact money that I would have spent on MTV. I owned the whole damn network for $100,000. It's just common sense. It's just drilling down.
But you got to get the other stuff out of your head to do that, I think.
You got to get all that other crap. Oh, you need money to make money, and it's always been done this way. You need money to make money. 65% of lotto and athlete winners 3 years after leaving the league or winning the lotto are bankrupt. So the money of tool doesn't work for them. And I'm sure on your list, 65 to 70% of these founders are self-made men and women. That means they came from zero. That means money is not what is needed. And if you're told it's always been done that way, that is one of the worst statements that you can ever hear in history about anything from social values to changing the economy to changing or fighting injustices. It's always been done that way. Those who say it's always been done that way either don't want you to progress or they don't have any kind of vision and they're too lazy. Never, ever should we ever accept it's always been done that way. Thank you.
I think what impresses me so much about you is your just constant willingness to share that way and explore and to continue to grow as a human being. I didn't know this about you until the story. We did, but I'm estranged from my father, haven't spoken to him for 30 years, and yeah. I understand the same is true of you. But you recently did something about that because you just felt you had to.
Yeah, you know, my family finally let my sisters know that my father and mother broke up when divorce, life happened. When I was 10 years old, I never see or speak to him ever again. And he basically told the entire family. Remember, at that time, you know, there wasn't social media, so he told the family, you know, Daymond's mother doesn't want you to speak to him, so I lost all of my 30 relatives, right? They were Trinidadian, they all live in Canada. They knew I existed, but you know, a lot of us come from type of families where there's a lot of other things going on, right? And my mother was never one to accept that way. There wasn't no, you got a wife and a girlfriend down the block. That ain't happening, homeboy. So I never spoke to them. So because I think that he may have been ashamed or whatever the case, I have no issue why they may have divorced. You know, life happens. I don't know the situation. And I wouldn't be the man I am today because growing up in a Trinidadian household, I would have been more pushed to be a coder or engineer because we come from basically India. And math is a very strong discipline that we're taught. But my sisters, I wanted to get a hold of them. I knew at this time that they were around 25, 26, 27, that they didn't know who I was, and my family finally told them, your father was married before, and here's who your brother is. And I met them, and this is the first time, I think about 3 years ago, that I actually know how it is to have love for a sister. Damn, I need some men in my life. I don't have any men in my life. But, and I decided to meet my father and just to say what's up, and because she asked me to. But I didn't decide to really continue the relationship in that sense. But yeah, it was a really different feeling that I had to understand that I have sisters now, and I really, you know, and have a different type of love, knowing that my biological father is somewhere around. But you know, I call another, I think you may have interviewed who I affectionately call my stepdad. Did you?
Yeah, we did.
That's the first interview he's probably ever done. And he is a very special individual. Yeah. The beauty is he came in my life. My mother started dating him when he was 15. I think they dated for about 5 years, but he happens to be Jewish. And he always taught me a couple of things. Be pro-black, but never anti-anything else. Love doesn't come in a color or a gender. And that white people are just as crazy as black people are. And I love him to death.
I would say possibly more so.
Yeah, possibly more. Yeah, that's my whole story of dad and my new aspect of life I've never shared publicly. You know, it is just what has made us. You know, our experiences are what has made us.
But I just admire your willingness to tackle that head on rather than pretend it didn't exist. I think that's really.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Again, I want people to see. That we're all human, and everybody in this crowd are going through exactly what I'm going through and what you're going through. Right? You can't tell anybody your problem because you're the boss. Right? Because you're supposed to walk on water. I mean, imagine telling any of your staff your problem. Imagine your staff coming in and you're like this in the corner. Oh, they're gonna quit, right? It's always the ones you want to fire that don't quit, by the way. The good ones have some place to go. And then you got to listen to all their problems. Of course, you take that stress home because you want them to be happy. You often don't take money as a founder, early stage founder, or even actually as you go to be a bigger person, the cash is always the problem, right? And you can have a very luxurious life, but you're living through the company and you're the richest, poorest person on the planet until you either take an exit or bring in partners, and then that is a very personal decision. Do I take an exit? Do I bring in a partner? Can I potentially grow this thing, or will it flatten? And I didn't take any money off the table. And the only people that got paid are all my vendors and/or suppliers. They made more money than I do. And then you have financial stress at home, and then your health is sometimes a challenge because you're traveling. You don't get to work out as much. So what do? You get this escape at night, you know?
Yeah. And it's not filled with the water we're drinking.
It's not, because you got 3 dinners at night with 2 of the clients you can't stand, so you drink just to tolerate them. The other one you can't. The other one you can't wait to see them and talk about your problems with the other clients, so you drink to that guy. You know what? Why don't you just get a couch? I'll lay right here and tell you all my damn problems. Anybody have those problems? Anybody know what I'm talking about? You thought it was just you, right? Let alone having to sit in between Kevin O'Leary and Barbara. I mean, that'll drive you to drink. So, that's it.
Now, maybe we'll see if they have any problems. We actually have a microphone set up on either side of the room, and if anyone has a question for Daymond, we've got about 10 minutes for questions. If you could just make your way to where the spotlight is, there'll be an opportunity to ask a question.
Yeah, make sure, please, the question serves us all.
Yeah, that would be terrific. Not just for yourself, but and the reason why I think, anyway, by the way, everyone here has those universal questions. Spoke to a woman last night, had a 9-figure government contract, had issues, because there are always issues. She took home for the year $30,000 for herself.
Understood.
So that scenario you just described is very real and very real to the people in this room.
It's everyday. Listen, Robert is a very, very wealthy guy. I saw an article that he sold his LaFerrari about a year and a half ago to fund payroll for a little period of time. And we're sitting in a Shark Tank doing deals. I mean, you would see from face value, you would think that, but he's like anybody else. I had to reinvest in the business. Now he got, I think, some level of a partnership, and he got a massive amount. He reinvested in it, but I know so many founders that get to where they're doing damn near $200-300 million, and they're still not making money because they're reinvesting in the business, and that's the challenge. And where do you go to understand those challenges? And I'm not bullshitting you. Is right here, right? You have these insights with people that are going right through it, and the information is right here. It's just, are you willing to look at it and then invest in yourself and come out here and be around like-minded people? And and that's why I always love what you do.
Thank you, and I think that is absolutely why everyone is here. Can we take a question from the woman in blue on the right?
Hello. Hey, it's so good to listen to you and talk about problems. You know, my name is Courtney Epps, and I own an accounting practice in South Carolina. We have about 3,000 clients all over the country. And I have 6 kids that we homeschool. And
you have 6 kids?
I do, yep.
And you're running that business too?
Yep, so they're 20, 19, 18, 17, 15, and 9. And we've been homeschooling them for 8 years.
Yeah.
So we've taken our business from 5 years ago. I showed up to a Tony Robbins event, and actually Gary Vee was there and a couple other people, and I was in a really bad place mentally, and I just kind of shut down. So we went from a $75,000 company a year and me not doing accounting full time because I hate accounting. I mean, let's face it, everybody hates it. And so do I. So, but I'm really good at it. And so we went from 75,000 to 4 million in the last 5 years.
Wow.
And
congratulations. Yeah.
My biggest problem is now I've spent so much time away from my kids. Now they're teenagers, so obviously they don't need me really that much anymore. Well, they need me, but they don't want me. You know, they just kind of want to hang out and do their thing. And my husband's been a stay-at-home dad for the last 11 years. And so my biggest problem is do I continue to grow? Because taking on partners would mean that I had to make decisions not based upon what's in the best interest of what we're doing, because we give back a lot. So we provide advanced immune support to 15.
So I think I understand. The general
Yeah.
question is, how do you figure out what you want to do?
Yes.
And do you take on that responsibility?
Yes.
And so I think that, you know, I read the same exact 10 goals every single night before I go to bed and every morning when I wake up.
Yep.
And 6 of them expire in 6 months, and the other 4 expire in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. And I read those goals every night before I go to bed because I want it to be the last thing I think about when I go to sleep. That's why I don't watch Ozark before I go to bed. And the reason I read it is because in the morning, because I want it to be one of the first actions I take, right? I never hit those goals. If I'm gonna do this amount of business, if my goal, it says this amount. If I get to this amount, when I reset it in 6 months, it goes. I learned this by reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. But the bottom line is you have to take inventory, and one thing I can suggest with anybody in here is nothing is sexier than setting your 6 months or yearly goals than doing it with your husband or wife, right? Because I agree, no problem. We're not talking about those kind of goals, homie, but again, going back to drilling down, the 3, I think, pillars to success are number 1, knowing really your why are you doing it. Number 2 is setting the goals to accomplish our why. Number 3 is educating yourself to, be able to execute those goals. But if your why is wrong, if you're doing it because you think that's what success is, or you've been in that business long enough and you want an exit, or you've been in that business long enough that you don't want to take in capital because you want to see where it's going in 10 years, those are personal goals. You're doing it for somebody else, you're doing it for society, you're doing it out of fear. And you have to really have that look in the mirror moment with you and your husband and say, what is this going to look like in 5, 10 years? I know a lot of people that come on the show, they want to be on Walmart. Well, why do you want to be on Walmart? Well, I just want it to be big. Well, you want it to be big, you want to make money, because Walmart, as great as they're an operating machine. They want a very low margin, and they want to sell to the masses. They've put more people out of business than they put people in business, not because it's Walmart's problem, it's because the people didn't know what they needed to do to comply. I'd rather be maybe a small direct-to-consumer business making my little $100,000, $200,000, $500,000, spending 6 months, away in tropical areas. That'll give me the liberty. Didn't I want liberty and freedom? So it's really you having to drill down and making those decisions, and then slowly starting to see what you need to do to exit. But I can't give you the answer on if you should take in capital now or do it. Is that the question? What do you do at this pivotal moment in your life?
No, I think what I'm shifting to is the education, just like you are, because
that's
actually is the education, which is exactly what I've done with my kids. I've told them, like, if you want to learn how to do something, I don't want you going to college. I'm a speaker for Tony Robbins, and I speak for Les Brown, and I speak for Eric Worre, who's big in network marketing space, and I teach and educate on tax strategy. My biggest thing is pushing them into doing what they love to do inside of our company, so I've taught them. They all know how to prepare taxes, but they know how to do marketing. They know how to do all the other things.
Yeah, but so I'll give you an example. My oldest daughter went to, and she felt that, and I believe everybody should have an accounting or business degree. I do, but she went strictly for accounting, and she figured that that's what she was going to be. But my oldest daughter is the most creative person I've ever met. And she came out of school, and she was miserable, sitting in cubicles.
Yeah. It's not fun. I stopped doing it for 16 years. But now my kids do work inside. I've one that wants to be an accountant, and that she'll graduate in May. But the biggest thing, I think, is shifting into the education space and just finding how do you find the right people to partner with? Because everybody needs tax knowledge. Every business does. but how do you figure out who to partner with in that education space? So, because like Kevin O'Leary right now is doing something with taxes, but those people could care less about helping them save money in taxes or strategy. They're just trying to prepare taxes. How do we move into an education space where we're giving people the knowledge and helping them have more, live more, and give more?
So I think you have a good, again, according to Barbara, you have a good sense of identifying appropriate partners. She said more than anyone else, and tells a story in the story we do.
Yeah. So in regards to how to identify, I think the question, you have a two-pronged question. It sounds a little bit like, how do you let your kids go along the path that they want to be? And I guess that's something they have to figure out, which is, as we all know, in our 20s, we don't know much, right? But identifying partners is first of all, you have to like the person. I think that's what you need to understand. Then you have to ask a really clear and transparent question on what are their goals. Because too many people don't study the target. They come on a Shark Tank and they say, well, I want to do a deal with Daymond because he's in clothing. But if you really understood me, the reason I went on the Shark Tank is I wanted to diversify my portfolio because all I was getting pitched was clothing companies, and I have 10 and 8 of them are dead. I'm the absolute wrong person to do a partnership with. So you need to really, when you deal with partners, you need to understand what it is and not be so eager. And a lot of us, I understand, you're eager to get money or whatever the case is, but do they want a return on their capital? Do they want to be strategic? Are them or their spouse or somebody really passionate about what you're doing, or they want to buy in it because they do want their family in the business? You have to really, really understand that. Partners can be, that's why a lot of times on Shark Tank, I don't partner with people because they say, well, Daymond, we want you here. And I'm like, I'm not that passionate about the business, or I don't know that much about the business. I'm not going to be of use, and you're going to call me and ask me to come, and I'm going to go, I just want to return on my capital. Leave me alone, right? So it really is when you look for partners and you look for employees. I generally don't hire an employee that doesn't ask me questions in the interview. Because if they don't ask me questions, you know they have questions. If they don't ask me questions, they're not a personality that will speak up, or they're just trying to get the job, and then I'm going to deal with a lot of issues later because they were too, shy, and I don't like gray areas, right? So I ask them a couple of questions in interviews. I ask them stuff like, when's the last time anything happened to you that was out of your control? And if somebody has an answer and they were over 10 years old, I mean, not talking about a car accident or somebody does something violent to you, but nothing's out of your control. I also ask them, what would you do if you won the lotto? If they sit there and say, I would immediately move to Ireland and get buy a house, well, then you're not in this for passion at all. You're in this purely for money. No problem, and at least I know where you stand. And the last question I ask is, do you ever, look in the toilet bowl after you get up? And if they say no, they're full of shit.
It's a dad joke. Can we go over here on the left-hand side for a quick question?
So I'm with AMA Consulting Group. We are a consulting firm for affordable housing, which is probably the sexiest industry out there, right? I'm the marketing director, and so I wanted to ask you, what would you attribute to the longevity of your FUBU brand? In your heydays, it was Kenai, FUBU, South Pole, and FUBU was able to maintain its iconic status and name and look and recognition for a very long time. What would you attribute to being able to do that with that brand?
Really great question. I've never been asked that before, so I have to actually think about it. I think it's willing to be have a healthy paranoia, willing to know that there's somebody in the parking lot right now, a younger version of Daymond, who is ready to eat my lunch. All right. So doing that from the FUBU standpoint to becoming, an author, to becoming, a shark. It's this theory of anything worth doing is worth overdoing. And looking at the data, again, a hot fashion brand stays hot for 5 to 7 years. There's unicorns like Nike and Louis Vuitton, but most likely I'm going to end up like the other one. So what do? Well, I have to acquire new companies, or I have to do something authentic with FUBU and keep challenging myself. Right? It's the same as writing a book. My first book did okay, my second book failed, then my 3 books after that, I was fortunate enough to become bestsellers. but it was also about reevaluating where we fell off and how do we get to the top, and making some hard decisions and working 24 hours a day. So that's just what it is. It's just a work ethic. If you're going to spend time doing it, you better do it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll take one from the other side of the room.
Yep. Is this on? There we go. Daymond, thanks. Congrats on being a dad. Kudos. Thanks for teaching my kids all you've taught them.
Thank you.
Yep. They love Shark Tank. It's a family event, so thanks for all of that. And just a quick plug, if you want to catch fish that you need to hold way back, look me up. We got a guy down in southwest Mexico that'll help you catch 7-foot needlefish.
That's
7
it?
foot.
That's my guy. I like him. Complimented me and gave me more information on where to catch fish.
So Barbara said you all, I mean, she described that partnership thing more as that you have a bullshit detector unlike anyone she's ever seen.
I have a what?
A bullshit detector.
Yeah.
Unlike anyone she's ever seen.
Yeah.
Where's that come from?
It's really looking, I get a certain feel about people, but also looking at them and seeing how they really respond or treat others. It doesn't mean that I won't invest in them or work with them, but I'm very transparent about it, and I don't think there's somebody better. I think that we're all human. I don't question where this wherever they have what I don't agree with, I don't question where it came from. As long as it's not immoral, stealing or things of that nature, I just try to focus on the good things, because if we all have our faults, but yeah, I feel I can detect bullshit pretty good.
I mean, you've talked a little bit about that with that sort of generosity of acceptance, even.
You know, I think we all come with our certain ways, and if you think that this person is this certain way, well, then find out why and how can you extract that value. Doesn't mean that the next person is going to be any better, right? So at least know that you went down the path of it. Have transparency on what you expect out of it. But there's certain people, like I have salespeople. I mean, these people, some of the best salespeople that I have, they are the most obnoxious people in history. They don't, I mean, do you know Maury? Because Maury is painful. But he's great when he's calling on people, but it's not so great when he's asking me questions. But I have to take those both in, and in stride and say, well, he has a super strong rejection muscle. When Maury hears no is clearly a request for more information. That's all it is, right? I got that from the CMO of Pepsi, but that's what Maury said. When you say no, he goes, I'm gonna call you back in 10 minutes, I'll be right back. So, but, okay, so then when he's calling me like that at 3 o'clock, at midnight, about basically Sunday morning around 12:01, the phone rang. I know, Maury, I know you're Jewish. You didn't use your phone yesterday or Saturday, but it's midnight now. It's 12:01. It's Sunday morning. I'm Catholic. Church starts for me today. Can you leave me alone? He doesn't want to get called on a Saturday, but let 12:01. It's just the kind of guy he is. So anyway, bottom line is, though, I just look at people and I allow, if they're not doing anything that is going to hurt other people, I invest in them, even though I have a bullshit meter.
Well, I think it's a delightful philosophy, one that I'm grateful that you shared with us today. I think everyone here is grateful that you shared that with us today, yes?
Thank you.
I want to make sure that everyone knows there's another conversation coming up right now with the founders of Supergoop, which is going to be really interesting, and it's just going to happen in a few seconds. And Daymond, as always, I appreciate this so much that we need to talk about that fourth cover. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody.
We're going to go out this way.
Thank you, man.